Rock and roll may live forever, but we only retire once. Kevin Lamour of Our Financial Plans and Quadris Investment Services offers a large range of financial solutions from some of the biggest leaders in the investment and insurance landscape of Canada. See how a solid financial plan built with friendly and professional advice can help. Find out more at ourfinancialplans.ca or give them a call at 705-949-1316. Hey folks, and welcome to another episode of the Lonesome Cowboy Podcast. And coming to me all the way from Indiana. Whereabouts in Indiana, James?
Crown Point, Indiana.
Crown
Point, Indiana now, up in Lake County, up by Chicago.
There we go. And that is Mr. James Gedda, all the way from Indiana. How's it going, James?
It's going pretty good. Thanks for having me on.
Very good. Do you prefer James, Jim?
James.
James is good. Excellent. All righty. So I was really happy when I went to your website, considering the state of the world right now, because there you were holding a Canadian-made Seagull guitar.
Yeah, that one treated me well. I haven't had it for a few years, but
oh, really? Okay.
That was a good guitar. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. As soon as I saw that, I went, oh well, look at that. That's where I got to start.
Right. Yeah. No, that was a good, reliable work guitar. Yeah.
There you go. I've always wanted to play at the Bluebird Cafe, and this is something that you have got to do. You did it.
Yeah, it's on the resume. It's kind of cheating a little bit because it was just the open mic. But if you don't know, the way the open mic works is if you know they it's on a Monday and they start taking calls. At least when I did it at like 10 a.m. or 10:30.
Wow!
And within like 15, 20 minutes, it's usually all booked up, or it was then.
Oof.
So people would tell you, all right, you got to call the number to get booked on it. And if you get a busy signal, hang up and call again, and just keep calling until you get through or you don't, and eventually someone will answer and say, there's still a spot available, or no, you can't, so it just lucked out. It was one of my first times down in Nashville, and it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. So that's what I wanted to ask you. Like, I mean, that's, if there's any gig where a musician can get butterflies, that might be the one, eh?
Yeah. There was definitely some butterflies there. I was pretty nervous, especially knowing the reputation of the place, all the greats that have played there and everything. Yeah, that was I was pretty nervous. I did my song "She's Not the One," which was I don't have any songs that are necessarily poppy, but that one's at least a little bit showy and dramatic, so that worked pretty good. But yeah, never been able to get back there. Anytime I go down to Nashville, I try, but that's tough getting in.
No kidding. So I suppose I guess it goes to say that there wasn't a songwriting publisher record deal that just came running out and threw it at you.
No. You think that's how it's going to be in Nashville, or at least you hear about it, but not quite. No, it's like, and I've gotten the sense for my trips down there. I've done a few writers' rounds at the Commodore Grill, which is another good spot.
Nice.
And I would make occasional trips down there, but you start to realize to really embed yourself down there as like a writer or even just performing, you got to be down there all the time. And you got to be hustling and networking, and it just seemed exhausting. Whereas a lot of opinions I've heard from people who've done okay is like, no, just do your own thing where you are, where you can do it your way. And if luck is your way, Nashville will come to you eventually. Because also the thing is, I'm a full-time working musician, and at least from my understanding, you don't really get paid playing in Nashville. You play for the tip of it. You don't have guarantees, It's like if you're not selling tickets and like serious tickets, then just kind of SOL. Whereas here in Northwest Indiana, within a 45-minute radius of where I am right now, there's probably 200 bars that can book you on a Friday or Saturday night.
Wow.
There's a bunch of places. I might be exaggerating a little bit, but I know plenty of people who don't leave, a 2-hour radius to Chicago, make their whole living, playing music and giving lessons and stuff.
That's a really awesome thing to hear about. I'm very jealous because we probably have half that many bars, and they could care less about musicians.
Some of them don't care, but
like, and they tell you that by saying, "Here's $100 for 2 hours." Yeah, exactly. So bringing back to songwriting, and we're talking about Nashville, if you could have a songwriting session with any songwriter, living or dead, who would it be?
Oh, man, I should have thought about this one.
Yeah, no studying on this.
I think Guy Clark or John Prine. I mean,
Attaboy.
pick two big names, but I just think with both of them, there's an efficiency to their writing, especially Guy Clark. He could get at something really quickly. John Prine too, in relatively plain language, and they both had kind of a wit to it. It's like I love Townes Van Zandt. I have a song named after him, but it's like you listen to Townes Van Zandt for an hour, like I'm not sure I'd want to hang out with this guy, and like you watch documentaries and stuff. Whereas, like, it seems like palling around with John Prine or Guy Clark for an hour would be a pretty good time.
Yeah, no kidding, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I especially well, I knew you were going to say Guy Clark because I just finished watching you and your buddies playing damn
Homegrown
it.
tomatoes.
Thank you. Yeah, homegrown
Yeah.
tomatoes. I knew it was about tomatoes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a fun one.
that's a
One
fave.
of a strength of Guy Clark's writing, I think, is he can write about food and it doesn't sound hacky. There's a lot of there's a lot of food songs out there, but I think it's hard to thread the needle in terms of like genuine affection without being stupid. And that song's silly, but I don't think it's stupid. You
No.
can tell Guy Clark cares a lot about homegrown tomatoes.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
yeah, I love that song. Same with like Texas Cooking. Like
Oh
there's a
yeah, I
video of
know.
him playing that, and he says, "This is the only true love song I've ever written."
So bring me back to the beginning, James. Tell me how things got started for you. Where does James come from to become the James we see today?
Well, I started writing poetry in like high school and stuff like that, and just, sensitive kid, kind of shy, whatever, cliche. And then my senior year, well, going into my senior year, I never really listened to music growing up. It was around, my family listened to a lot of old country music, but it was just, like other things,
Hmm.
kid mind going a mile a minute. But I started listening to old country music, especially like Johnny Cash and Hank Williams around the time I was going into like my senior year. And got a guitar that year for Christmas. And one thing led to another. Come freshman year in college, I'm writing songs in the dorm and trying to play, open mics and things like that. And it's all downhill from there, I suppose. It really changed when I started falling in love with the art of songwriting, not just song performing. But it was like really, I've thought about a lot over the last year or so after Chris Christopherson passed away. Like he was the first songwriter I fell in love with. It's like you find out the singers and the performers you like, whose works did they respect? And that was, when Christopherson came up, that led to like Townes Van Zandt and Guy Clark and folks like that. Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, they're my favorites. And
Yeah.
you've touched Blaze Foley. I don't know
Oh,
if
yeah.
yeah, good old
Have you seen the Blaze Foley biopic?
I have. I saw the Blaze Foley biopic. I think that was directed by Ethan Hawke.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's
That's
kind
my
of
favorite music movie. It's so
it's good,
hard
eh?
to watch and sad, but beautiful. Like, and I could go on a diatribe, but we could have a 40-minute conversation about this. But I think the testament to it is I was playing at a jam night around here after I watched it for the first time. And I was up there, jam nights, you get up there with like a host band,
Yep.
and they'll put together pickup bands.
That's how I cut my
There's a lot of
teeth.
those around here. Yeah, same.
Yeah,
That's how I
yeah.
learned to play with the rhythm section.
Yeah.
Still learning, I suppose. But I did If I Can Only Fly. And
Oh,
I mentioned before the movie and everything. And my buddy Stefan, we'll be playing with tomorrow night, actually. He's a violin player who's, he's a jam band guy. He's into all sorts of eclectic stuff, but he's not really a classic country guy unless you point him to something specific. And within the next week, I go back to the jam night. He goes, "Dude, I watched that Blaze Foley movie. Holy fuck, that's the realest music movie I've ever seen." And I'm like, "Yeah, no, because it feels real. It's like his big gig is a recording at a bar where people are just asking for Townes Van Zandt to show up, and that feels real." And I also like that it takes the piss out of the romanticism of to be a songwriter, you got to sacrifice everything. You got to be an asshole and you got to, have dependencies and all that. And it's like, well, no, that comes with it. But it's like, part of what I love about that movie, and then I'll stop after this, but it's just you bring up Blaze Foley, I'm going to start ranting about this movie, is it kind of makes Townes Van Zandt look like he's full of shit. Like, I forgot, I didn't even ask you if I could swear.
Oh yeah, you
All
can.
right.
It's the internet, man.
Yeah, I figured, but it's like there's the through line scene where he's doing the radio interview about Blaze.
Yeah, I remember that.
Blaze's harmonica player is sitting right there and like looking at him, as he's taking things Blaze said or like repurposing it and remembering his life story and all that. It's like okay, this is portraying an interesting two sides of the coin
Yeah, really.
sort of thing. And yeah, Blaze was such a good writer. I
Oh
like
God.
underappreciated for sure. Like talk
Hmm.
about, all
Yeah.
the people that make it had to pass 1,000 more talented people that didn't. That's a thing to hear.
Yeah.
Not to decry anyone, especially like Stones Van Zandt, who made something of a success of themselves. But
Yes.
it's there's talented folks everywhere, but it's just all the variables of trying to make a go of music and
I agree.
songwriting and building an audience. Like, knock on wood. Whoa, my guitar just fell. That's fun.
Don't do that. Don't do that if that's
No,
not your
certainly
Martin,
not.
please. No.
But it's by the time I've had my day, hopefully I've built a small audience for myself and etch out a sustainable living. That's the goal. But it's there's a lot of super talented folks that just it's like, well,
Yeah.
I can't quit the 9 to 5 because I got a family. Or I got to do this. It's a perspective that's important to keep in mind. I think,
Yeah.
especially when you are managing to at least do something. That's be grateful for what you got. It's that Ray Wiley Hubbard line. The days I keep my gratitude higher than my expectations, I have pretty good days. And they're not all good days like that, because there's plenty of days where I'm playing to a bar, no one's really paying attention, but I'll leave $150 richer. But it's like, I'm an artist. Why aren't these people listening to me? And I get all grumpy. Then you remember, they didn't know you're going to be there. And, they left you $20 on the way out. You don't know what their day looked like. You don't know what their week looked like. It's not to say it's all easy, but it's a privilege to be able to entertain folks.
Well, sir, you've just schooled this old man here. You made me all the more understand that I really have to work on that gratitude thing more than anything else.
Yeah,
it seems to
buddy,
keep your
I'm
brain.
bad at it myself.
Yeah.
I'm bad at it myself.
Yeah. Well, you can hear me even online. You know what I mean? I crank it up because I want to see the musicians paid properly. And
oh, for sure. Yeah, that's the tough part.
And that kind of stuff. And the way you get treated at venues sometimes, it's like,
yeah,
do I have a coin slot here? Is that what it is? Or you think you can just drop it in?
yeah. I tell people all the time, especially like there's a place I play at once a month. Love the bar, but it's a younger bar in a college neighborhood.
Sure.
And people, especially like early 20-somethings post pandemic, feel like they don't necessarily know how live music works.
I guarantee they don't.
Yeah, and not for any fault of their own, but it's like, I'm not a jukebox. And even if I do know something, doesn't mean I want to play it or I'm gonna. I didn't do this to make viable economic decisions. I did this because I'm broken inside.
Yeah, I like that when they also have an assumption about you too, because when you say to them, "I don't know that song," and the first reply is, "Oh, come on, yes you do," and it's like, you really don't want me to try to fake this. You're going to be upset.
Yeah. Oh, I can bring up the words on my phone. You can let me sing it. Like, you're missing the part where I don't know how the song goes, man. Like, one of the funniest I got in recent memory, this may be 4 or 5 months ago. I was playing at that bar in Chicago, and this girl comes up to me, real earnest, probably 22, 23 years old. Do you take requests? Yes, hon, I do. I didn't say hon, but it's like oh, do you take requests? Yeah, if I know them, I'll play them. If I know them, I feel like playing them. So okay, she scans my little sign I got, and within a minute a request pops up, and it's one of the funniest pairings I've ever seen. She said, "Pink Pony Club or the Eagles," and I'm playing classic country, singer-songwriter stuff, Americana. And it's just that pairing of, well, maybe this brand new pop hit, which admittedly is a very catchy song, and I've toyed around with learning it as a joke, or the Eagles. That made me laugh so much because I could see on her face, seeing who it came from, this girl meant it. She says, "This is what I want to hear right now." Like, yeah.
Isn't that something? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you said they send it up. You saw a request pop up. So do you use an app or that?
Your audio's cutting out. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. You said you used an app or something for that. For, like you said, a song popped up, a request. How did that work?
So basically, I learned when, especially playing bar gigs, sometimes I go pretty long, and in that place in particular, I just made a sign with my Venmo, because young people in the city can't be asked to cash out. They might not have cash, or there might be a cash bar or something like that. So I just Venmo will give you a QR code.
Oh
and
yeah,
I just
right.
put that on a sign with, and it's not, and people will usually, without me saying this is how the system works, because really I don't appreciate them thinking it works this way. So they'll send me $5 with the song request,
Ah,
and and I've had to say as a disclaimer, I all Venmo transactions are final. If you send me $5 and I don't know the song, you're not getting it back. This is not a menu. It's
yeah,
and
well,
I did, yeah,
yeah,
like not trying to be a stickler about it, but it's like it's the equivalent of a tip jar. If you put money
exactly.
in the tip jar and you ask for something, just because I don't know it doesn't mean you get to fish that $5 bill out of tip jar. Ask before you tip me.
Yeah,
If it's contingent on me playing the song, like
yeah. James, I
yeah,
think I think we're long lost friends. I see your T-shirt you're wearing is another favorite artist of mine, Willie
Willie Carlisle.
Carlisle. God,
Yeah,
man, that man makes me want to be better.
yeah. What a Renaissance man, entertaining person. I've seen him a few times live.
Oh,
One of my
really?
favorite live shows I've been to. Yeah,
A friend of
seen
mine
him in.
opened for him. Creekbed
Uh,
Carter Hogan.
oh wow, I've been trying to open for him. I send his management an email every few months to just see, but it's just we'll keep it in mind. It's
Yeah,
one of those
exactly.
things.
Yeah.
But so talented and nice guy too. Like I I talked to him after one of the shows when I was buying some merch. I said, "Man, I'm a singer-songwriter. I'd love to open for you." He goes, "Man, I hate telling people no. I hate having to make those decisions. So you got to email management. This isn't like you can't." And he was straight up enough to go, "You can't schmooze with me and get in because it's I don't want to be involved in that decision process."
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's
yeah. You don't want to put him between a rock and a hard place, eh?
no, and I get it even a little bit when I'm just a local regional musician trying to expand my reach. But occasionally people be like, "Oh, can I get in on a gig with you or something like that?" And it's like, well, it's I have my people I work with if I want to work with people, and like I'm always got new, if you're a lead player,
Sure.
whatever in mind.
Yeah,
This doesn't
yeah.
happen that much, but whenever it does, I hate having to like, I'll let you know, man. Like I hate doing that. I can't imagine being an artist with a sizable audience who's getting asked every day, like, "Hey man, can I come on tour with you? Can I do this and that?" It's that I can't imagine the anxiety that creates.
Yeah, no kidding, eh?
Mm-hmm.
I want to ask you about your new album, South of Mars, but
Yeah,
and I'm going to spark you off because I love setting you off because you always have great responses.
thank you.
There's when you bring up these guys that we've talked about, Willie Carlisle, Towns, Blaze, Guy
Mm-hmm.
Clark. You know, my big thing is, and this is why I get angry at the music business, is one, how come people don't know about these people more often?
Yeah, yeah.
Why aren't they flooding the radio?
Mm-hmm.
Why isn't their music all over the radio?
Yeah.
And why does it seem so unjust that people are just forking over money to these mega pop country artists to see their
Well,
shows? And then here we are trying, and you and I are playing their music going, hear that? This is what you should listen to.
yeah. I mean, it's easy to get caught up in it. I try not to fault anybody who listens to like the super poppy stuff or the radio
Well,
country stuff
yeah.
because at a certain point, it's a commercial and they're being successfully advertised to.
Well, there you go. Yeah.
And it's pop music. It's made for general consumption.
Well said.
So
Well
I
said.
think it's just marketing people doing their job well.
Okay.
And maybe I don't have an ear for pop music at all, but it must be someone's doing something right if it's making all that money. I figure I would
Yeah.
also love if the Willie Carlisles and Sierra Farrells of the world got more radio play and more people knew who they were. But it's tough because you think, can someone who has figured out their niche, has figured out the specific way they're doing things and refuse to compromise on it, they might not necessarily be made for a big audience. But then,
Mm,
you have the likes of like Coulter Wall, who plays weird old cowboy songs and goes everywhere he wants to go and plays whoever he wants to play it.
I
So who
know.
knows?
He just played Elko down there in the
Yeah,
Cowboy Poetry Show and Canadian boy and from Saskatchewan.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I hope that did sound like a backhanded compliment.
No,
I
not at all.
love Coulter Wall, and as a fellow low voiced guy, who probably people tell me my whole life, boy, you ought to do more Johnny Cash stuff. Like
Yeah.
I'm like first time I saw a video of him playing from like those brewery sessions.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And he's got his voice way down here. It's like, I could do that whenever I want to too, but I know that's a put on. And sure enough, a few years later, when he got more original music out there, and he's coming into more of his own voice, which is more a bit nasally.
Yeah.
Nasally still a low voice, but I saw some post by him who goes, "Oh man, watching those old videos just makes me shiver because it wasn't me, or something to that effect." Yeah, to my knowledge, he still does a lot of those songs, but I think it's that specific, like, well, more people will pay attention if I do this super low gravelly thing, and it's God bless, especially for like especially at the time, a young kid out of Canada, dressed up like cowboy playing these old murder ballads and stuff like that.
The cool part is he is a cowboy. He works ranch.
No, I know he lives. It's not cosplay like this for a lot of stuff. Speaking of Willie Carlisle, he has a great line about Western attire and country music, cowboy drag. Yes,
cowboy drag. I used it at my show on Wednesday night, as a matter of fact. I said I'm not a real cowboy.
As soon as he said that, or I heard him say that, I got a little over my reluctance to wear Westernish attire because it is fun. It's like,
it is.
Gave me a beautiful fringe jacket. I'll wear it like big shows, and I got a hat that I wear sometimes. It's fun because it is a costume, because it is a performance, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like you dress it up a little bit. There's a great line. I always tell my buddies. I'll go back to what I was going to say. I always tell my buddies in my band, like, God help me if I ever get like decent touring money, because I'm going to make us all dress up like Buck Owens and the Buckaroos, right? Where they had the suits, and Buck's suit was the opposite color of the band's. Like,
yep. That's what we're doing.
I love doing stuff like, I would love to do stuff like that. Money, obviously.
Yeah, that's what I told my wife. I said, if I ever get that first big music check somewhere from a song, I'm contacting a company on the east coast of Canada called J. Boyne Western Wear, and I'm saying, I want me a white cowboy suit with pink flamingos.
There you go. Hell yes, that's great.
Okay, Jay, new album, South of Mars. You successfully recorded it, from what I understand from the one video, but now you're just getting it financed to get it moved to the next stage, right?
Yeah, finished the fundraiser. I used Indiegogo because, unlike Kickstarter, some other platforms, if you don't reach your goal, you still get the money. Whereas Kickstarter, it's more of a ticking clock. Like, listen, if we don't reach the goal, can't do it. So I used Indiegogo so I could set the goal as like the max, like the ideal. And I got about halfway there. That, the ideal is factoring in like, oh, if I get this, I can maybe do a vinyl release, or because that's expensive, or I can actually figure out how you promote music when you put it out, because I don't really know aside from posting it on social media. But we got about halfway there, and it means I can pay back the people that worked real hard on it and helped me get CDs printed and all that. That's nice. We recorded it over 2 years ago in my bass player's studio in Griffith, Indiana, which is in the back of a print shop. But it's just a nice space, and he's got to set up an ISO booth. And we started by recording the drums, doing them live. We were all there. And so everything else has been done over: the bass, the guitar, the vocals, all the other parts. But every drum track on all the songs was recorded live with all of us there those couple days. I'm excited to be getting it out into the world. It'll hopefully May, still figuring that out, May or maybe early June, but it's going to be a 13-track album. Almost all of them full band. There's a couple more acoustic-y things in there, but I'm excited because it's songs I've been playing for years, and it's like, in my mind, it's like the best version of all my best songs. Like the one I'm putting out next Friday, Sleeping Around, just playing around here with my friends at, jam nights and gigs and stuff like that. That's become like one of my signature originals. And there's a version of it out there, but it's solo acoustic, which I love, but it's from an older EP. It's before the song really came into its own in a way, because one of my favorite things about playing originals with other musicians is they'll find parts of your song that you didn't know were there, right? They put things into it that then make it a little bit more just beyond your direct contribution. And so, can't wait for folks there, because in my mind, this is how the song should always sound. The version of Sleeping Around that's going to be out next Friday. So yeah, the album is a labor of love for sure, because it's been a couple of years, and I'm glad that fundraiser's over, because boy, I was just staring at a URL all month, and like, it's music is weird when you have low self-esteem anyway, but especially when like there's a web page with a meter that's directly tied to how successful you're doing.
Yeah, I don't want to go there. I don't want to see.
Yeah.
I don't want to see the meter just barely move.
No, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's
So, James, you have quite a way with words, by the way, and I really, really love your songs that speak of today's situation in the world.
Thank you. That's been a recent thing as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So, are we going to hear songs like Obituary and what was the other one there? This
machine.
This machine. This machine.
Yeah.
That's got a Woody Guthrie feel to it. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So, are we going to see that coming on the album?
So not on the album, because it was all recorded years ago, and those two are actually two of my newest songs.
Cool.
But for those who don't know, I had a video kind of pop off on TikTok of all places that I put up in January. I put a video up on Inauguration Day of me playing a song in the back of my car about how, we tastefully put this, is it no matter how successful, no matter how evil, how rich and corrupt somebody is, everybody's going to be pushing up daisies someday. You know, it's that old adage, I've never wished death on anyone, but I've read some obituaries with great joy. You know, and that's the hook of it. And weirdly enough, that day it resonated with a lot of people. And,
what was that called again?
Obituary.
Obituary. That's right. That's Obituary. Yeah.
Yeah, I just put that out last month, actually, because it wasn't in my plan, because I was in the middle of the fundraising cycle then. And, you know, I'm kind of a one thing at a time sort of guy. So okay, well, after this album's out, then I'll start working on something that's a little more folky and, you know, of contemporary subjects and all that. But then, you know, comments kept coming in for, you know, like thousands of people going, hey, is this on Spotify yet? Like, oh, I want to listen to this. And, you know, when more people are paying attention to this one song than anything I've ever done, you make plans and you listen to them, right? So I got together with a friend of mine who runs a studio here in town in Maryville, Indiana, at Region Buzz 219. And we laid down an acoustic version of it with some harmonica and just leaned into the very melodramatic Johnny Cash American recordings era sort of sound. You know, a lot of reverb, a lot of echoiness and warbliness. So put that out a month ago. But so I do think, not announcing anything like that, but I do think before the year's up, I want to put together, like, not necessarily a full band thing, but maybe just like a string band sort of feel, like bass, fiddle, maybe a slide guitar sort of combo, and do 5 or 6 like of those folky type songs of mine. Because I have a few. I even have a few that haven't been recorded, and I'm toying with the idea, not sure how I will play marketing wise, of calling the EP On Americana.
It's you know what? People are shameless in using clickbait. I say go ahead, because that'll
honestly, get them to do a double take.
Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah.
So, James, do you think we'll see the music business finally become a place where musicians are the priority rather than just a means to an end? The way it's going, like, I mean, the musicians started to slide. Like, they used to be, that's what you wanted, and now it's like, do you really want to do this?
I'm not sure. Like, I wish I could see it. If I could accurately pick that kind of thing, I'd be making a lot more money, you know. But I'd like to think so. Like, things, I feel like they kind of go cyclically. You know, they ebb and flow, they rise and fall. And, you know, especially right now, we're in this big push for, you know, AI and just sheer content generation, and this very, very aggressive form of late stage capitalism where everyone's working 3 different jobs. And I feel like eventually that's going to ebb back the other direction, and the focus returns more to creativity and musicianship and virtuosity and all that. I'd like to think so. Mm-hmm. You know, it's just, what else can you hope for doing this, you know? But I mean, I think at the very least, you know, troubled times at least give inspiration for good art, you know, and Lord knows times are troubled right now, not just politically, but, you know, economically. I just saw last week, but Nick Shoulders had to completely rearrange his touring arrangement. Nick Shoulders, a guy who also, you know, seems to be on that tour of, like, I thought guys who could, that guy can probably just play any market he wants at, like, a decent sized room and people will show up, and that seems to be the case. But still, just even if
Yeah.
you're selling records, even if you have a loyal audience, and even if you have the means to facilitate aggressive touring, if you want to do right by your bandmates, you can't necessarily have them on the road all the time. And that broke my heart reading his post about it, because he goes, because I'm a band leader, when I bring my guys anywhere, I'm buying dinner, and if there's a bar tab that we still have to pay, I'm taking care of it, And reading him, I was like, oh no, the band gets a per diem. I take care of their accommodations.
I thought that was amazing.
All this, then even giving the band a merch cut. Yeah. I was reading this. He goes, man, this guy was trying to do right by his friends, by his fellow musicians. And even at the stage of success that he's at, it's still untenable to do full time with the company that, and that's heartbreaking to see. It's discouraging in a sense, but it makes you feel like, it's two ends pushing against each other, like the practical realities of it versus the will of the audience and all that. But
just like the one from Dr. Doolittle there, the push me, pull you,
Yeah.
Never know where you're going.
Fingers crossed. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's very well done, sir. I appreciate your great words, and I hope the folks find that helpful in what you had to say. James, do tell everyone where they can find you, and socially, web-wise and music-wise, and tell them all about that.
All right. Well, yeah, I'm James Gedda. Like I said, right now based in Chicagoland, but always trying to travel out further. And you can find my stuff at jamesgeddamusic.com. That's James Gedda, Gedda. There's also like more of my socials and current stuff I'm pushing can be found on my link tree, which is linktr.ee/James Gedda, Gedda, I believe.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you get to being a musician, right? You wear 15 different hats, and the smallest part of your job is getting up on stage playing in front of people. Sometimes that's how it is. So
ain't it though? Yeah.
Yeah. But one of my favorite things I've been doing since more people have been listening to my stuff, I never tried to do the outro, but one of my favorite things is, as more people watching that one video, I said, okay, in the comments, put where you're from and put the local bar that hires music, because that's usable information. So that's something I've been pushing lately too. Like, let me know what the small bar, brewery, or distillery is in your neck of the woods that hires bands, and hopefully get out there to see folks. Yeah. Like, hopefully I'll get up into your neck of the woods sometime.
Yeah, hey man, I'd love to have you. It would be fantastic. I can actually look out my front window and see Michigan, so you're not far to get across.
Okay, yeah, that's not bad at all. Yeah.
There you go. All right, folks, I'm going to put a link to James's website when we get this podcast up. He's got a few more folks ahead of him, but we're going to get him in there. James, I can't thank you enough for coming on here. It's fantastic, and I'm glad we got the bond over some cool songwriters.
Yes, definitely. Good conversation. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Outstanding. All right, folks. Thank you again.
Rock and roll may live forever, but we only retire once. Kevin Lamour of Our Financial Plans and Quadris Investment Services offers a large range of financial solutions from some of the biggest leaders in the investment and insurance landscape of Canada. See how a solid financial plan built with friendly and professional advice can help. Find out more at ourfinancialplans.ca or give them a call at 705-949-1316.